Everybody silent.
All right, let's go get started. Good morning, and thank you everyone for being here. Today, the East Baton Rouge Gun Violence Collaborative is releasing the East Baton Rouge Public Safety Partnership. This is a strategy solely dedicated to reducing gun violence in East Baton Rouge Parish. The collaborative is made up of every single law enforcement agency in our community, in partnership with the United States Department of Justice. Here with us today are representatives from those agencies, and I want to publicly thank them for the work being done to fight violent crime. They include the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Louisiana, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, Drug Enforcement Association, and the United States Marshal Service, the Louisiana State Police, East Baton Rouge District Attorney's Office, East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office, Baton Rouge Police Department, and Baton Rouge City Constable, the police departments for the cities of Baker, Central, and Zachary, and the police departments for the Baton Rouge Community College, Louisiana State University, and Southern University. Today, you will hear from many of these partners, including Mayor Sharon Weston Broome, Major Todd Harris of the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, and Deputy Chief Neil Noel of the Baton Rouge Police Department, District Attorney Hiller Moore, Chief Murphy Paul, and others who have been instrumental in developing this plan. As the Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer in this district, I want to assure the public that these agencies have provided tireless and unique resources to the Public Safety Partnership and will continue to do so as part of the ongoing effort to remove criminals from our streets. As many of you are aware, I've been a prosecutor for over 20 years and a lifelong resident of East Baton Rouge Parish. This parish has always had a small segment of its population that is involved in violent crime, and the same holds true today. The Public Safety Partnership is designed to identify the worst violent offenders and concentrate efforts in that regard. As crime has evolved, this Public Safety Partnership has also evolved. Currently, the practices and procedures used by this collaborative are some of the best practices and procedures being used throughout the nation. But most importantly, the strategy will adapt to the situation that is unique here in East Baton Rouge Parish. The goal is to improve public safety, but understand that this partnership is always a work in progress, and we request your patience in its implementation. The Public Safety Partnership is dedicated to continuing to work together and reduce violent crime and keep intact the faith of the public in the system, and to continue to provide justice for East Baton Rouge Parish. I will come back up once District Attorney Hiller Moore is going to speak, but as of right now, I'm going to turn the floor over to Nola Joyce, who serves as our Public Safety Partnership Strategic Site Liaison for Baton Rouge. Ms. Joyce.
Thank you, U.S. Attorney Gaff. As he said, I'm Nola Joyce. I'm the Strategic Site Liaison for the Department of Justice, U.S. Department of Justice. Talk with you for a few minutes about what the Public Safety Partnership is and what Baton Rouge has been doing. The Public Safety Partnership is a U.S. Department of Justice wide program which supports local jurisdictions in the intervention, prevention, and reduction of violent crime by providing customized training, technical assistance, and concerted access to a wide array of Department of Justice law enforcement and programmatic resources. The East Baton Rouge has been part of the National Public Safety Partnership since 2019. They have been participating in trainings and leveraging technical resources to increase their capacity to reduce violent crime and enhance public safety in the parish. During this time, they've learned best practices, put them in use, learned how it worked in the field, made modifications, and much of that work and knowledge is reflected in the plan that you will see today. My role is to connect the Baton Rouge to the federal resources and to support the local and federal partnership, a partnership that certainly existed before PSP. What is different here is that this partnership reflects working together, not just on a one event tactic, but over time in a very strategic way. And the whole purpose is to reduce violent crime and specifically gun violence here in the parish. Partnerships are essential to achieving comprehensive, collaborative, and sustainable approaches to address local violent crime challenges. We know gun violence can be reduced. We know it can be reduced by coordinating and focusing resources across law enforcement agencies, the parish, and the community. What you see in this plan is just not talking about what law enforcement agencies are doing and will be doing, but it also carves out very specific responsibilities for city agencies and for community-based organizations. It is a holistic approach to reducing gun violence. The local, as I said, the local federal partners here have been actively engaged with the PSP throughout this initiative. It is critical that as this initiative is winding down in Baton Rouge, that the relationships continue. One of the guiding principles of the PSP program is sustainability, meaning that we may walk away, I may not be here, but the partnerships and the working arrangements that have been established during this time will remain. And the plan represents this commitment and shows in detail how this strategic, coordinated, focused approach will continue and be used to intervene and prevent gun violence in the parish. I've been involved in over a dozen PSP strategic planning efforts across the country. And I can say that Baton Rouge is among the few jurisdictions willing to stand up and say we are committed to continuing our efforts, and this is how we're doing it. Now, to present the specifics of this plan, I'll turn it over to first Baton Rouge Police Department Deputy Chief Neil Noel, and then Major Todd Morris with the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Department. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Noah. Good morning. I'm Major Todd Morris with the Sheriff's Office, and joining me is Deputy Chief Noel with the Baton Rouge City Police Department. Together we'll talk about a little bit about specifics of the public safety plan. The East Baton Rouge Gun Violence Collaborative is made up of partners that you see here today. We first began meeting back in February at a workshop and began developing strategies of the East Baton Rouge Public Safety Partnership. We continue to meet weekly, every other week, for the past several months now to develop a plan dedicated to reducing gun violence in our community. To accomplish this, we had defined specific goals, not only for law enforcement, but our prosecutors and our community members also. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Noel to talk about the specifics of the goals and go forward with that.
Thank you, Major. Hi, I'm Deputy Chief Neil Noel. This multi-year action plan represents a more informed, collaborative, and intelligence-driven approach to understanding and addressing the gun violence in East Baton Rouge Parish. As the Major said, 4 primary goals were outlined in this plan, each with its own strategies and measures of success. Our first goal is focused on community engagement. We have to engage with young people involved in violence on the front end by providing them with guidance and opportunities to choose a different path in life. Ms. Courtney Scott with the Mayor's Office is going to brief you a little bit more on that goal. Goal 2, focused on prioritizing gun crimes in our court system, both at the local and federal levels. And we'll be hearing from U.S. Attorney and District Attorney Hillam Moore a little more about that. Goal 3 is focused on addressing physical conditions in neighborhoods that contribute to the gun violence. And finally, Goal 4 is focused on law enforcement itself, proactive policing, investigations guided by data, intelligence, and technology to reduce the gun violence, specifically in our communities. Courtney?
Thank you, Deputy Chief and Mayor. Deputy Chief and Major, excuse me. I am Courtney Scott, Assistant Chief Administrative Officer for the Office of Mayor President Broome. I'm going to primarily focus today on goals 1 and 3, which focus around community engagement and municipal services. Creating this collaborative where the mayor's office is connecting funding and resources to alternative public safety models is key. This is going to complement the work that our law enforcement agencies will be telling you about today. It's important to note that our office is simply a convener, collaborator, and a catalyst to efforts that are happening with our community-based agencies and our neighborhood groups to establish work that's happening on the ground. These ongoing partnerships with community is pivotal for the future so that everyone gets to experience safety and that our young people have possibilities for hope and a brighter future. When convening high school students, college students, and community partners over the last 9 months for our ecosystem meetings, they've shared with us that they want to be a part, need to be front and center in making sure that their communities are safe. In order to achieve that, Mayor Broome has allocated funding from the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan to fund Safe, Hopeful, Healthy that will further create opportunities through an ecosystem of providers to do work that reaches those at risk the most. The goal is to help people find alternative pathways. Our investments will go towards models like community violence intervention, group violence intervention, school-based outreach, and place-based neighborhood revitalization that leverages services from the Department of Works to reduce blight, properly light streets, and identify properties that attract negative activity in our communities. These alternatives will proactively provide mediation and conflict resolution in our communities before violent incidents may occur. This is also investing in mental health services to help community members deal with trauma that they may be experiencing. We have to offer a big thank you to Mayor Broome for advocating on behalf of community to work with the Department of Justice, SAMHSA, and our state delegation like Congressman Troy Carter for their investments in Baton Rouge. At this point, we have $3 million in federal grant funding that we have secured with the help of the mayor's office. And we are also working with funding within city parish to make sure that we're putting these services in the communities that need them most. Thank you.
Good morning, Hillam Moore, District Attorney. First, I want to start by thanking all of the men and women that are here and the men and women on the streets of Baton Rouge, with the Baton Rouge Police, the Sheriff, all the other agencies you see, and our federal agencies. Without the men and women that are doing that day in and day out work, we would not be here. Also for the folks you see here for the past several months or even longer years on weekly phone calls that they've devoted their time and effort to come up with this plan. What I'd like to talk to you a little bit about is specifically gun violence and gun crimes. Around a quarter, a little less than a quarter of the cases that come through our office involve some type of gun or weapon type of crime. What we are trying to focus on in our office in conjunction with our partners here, including Mr. Ron Gaffney, U.S. Attorney's Office, are those violent gun offenders that we see day in and day out. Over the past several years, we've been doing gun reviews in the office. That is, anytime anyone is arrested, we take a look at the reports in the background and we try to make the case as good as we can. Unfortunately, because of the constraints that we had in the past, that would take us a month or so following the arrest to get to that point. I'm happy to announce that over the last 3 months, with some additional resources with the assistance of our Crimes Strategies Unit, the National Guard component as well, that at this point, we look at everyone that's been arrested in the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison at 2 different times of the day, one early in the morning, one in the evening, and we look at the bookings. We look for those violent offenders. We look for repeat offenders. We look for gun offenders. We look for gang or group involved members. Steve Danielson of the Crime Strategies Unit, an attorney, along with all of the other assistants that he has, compiles data and information background. It is how many times has this person been arrested? What are the arrests for? Does he have previous gun cases? Does he have pending cases? Are they out on bond? Are they a gang or group member associated? Is it a machine gun? Is it a ghost gun? Have federal government been involved before? That information is given to assistant DAs that are on duty at the time, as well as the folks that you see here, in an effort to let that assistant DA know that's on duty, that when you go before the court in bond setting, let the court know the information that you have, so that everyone knows what they have in front of them with this offender and this gun offense. We believe that that's the best way for us to set proper bonds, for everyone to be notified, and for us to make the best case that we can. Following that initial review that's, again, done twice a day throughout the night, we then follow up with a further gun review by other investigators in the office with the assistance of follow-up by these folks that you see here. Also following that, then, we interface with the United States Attorney's Office and the different federal agencies that are represented to ask, is this a case that you're interested in adopting as a potential federal case? And we do this on a routine daily basis. We have a very good working relationship with those offices that you see here. Also rolled into this, just coincidentally, is that we are looking at changing the way our office does things, how we prosecute cases. I've been around this office around 45 years, and things have remained the same for the most part. We're now looking at going to a trial bureau method, where we're going to try to take 12 assistant DAs out of the line of everyday work in a court, separate them, and have them be able to stay back at the office, spend much more time on those most violent offenders, make the best case that you can, try to push those matters to trial as quickly as you can. While doing this, we're also trying to set up a data system so that we can keep track of the number of arrests, particularly gun and violent crime arrests, to see what the outcome is. How can we do a better job? How are we handling gun cases here compared to other places? And what's the outcome that we're getting, and what's the desired outcome? So this is all working in collaboration with our partners. We hope that we will continue this. But again, I think this, hats off to the men and women on the street that do their job day in and day out, that never get to be here at these conferences, because this is not working, or will not work without their efforts day in and day out. So thank you for being here today.
And just to kind of piggyback a little bit off of what Hill has said, yes, our criminal chief and my criminal chief meet with his office, as long as also with the ATF and the DEA. With those partners, they will be able to look at those cases, see if we can develop those cases into federal cases. And again, that partnership is really going great. Also, as part of this collaborative, we have also set up quarterly meetings, and our first will be the third week of January, which is being hosted by Louisiana State Police Department. So again, those are the things that we're doing to try to make this strategic plan go into effect and work the way it's supposed to. And with that, I'm going to bring up Chief Perfect Mall with the Baton Rouge Police Department.
Thank you, Chief Murphy, Paul, Baton Rouge Police Department. Excuse me. I want to thank everybody for being here today. And, everyone being here today demonstrates the importance of this public safety partnership. Each of us play a vital part in creating a community where all of our citizens feel safe. And we've been working since the start of the year to implement this very specific strategies and operations to reduce gun violence while making the appropriate adjustments in an ever-changing environment. We understand that we have a lot of work to do to meet your expectations and also to meet our expectations as it relates to violent crime. what we have seen with these strategies since we began working together is reductions in violent crime. We know that one homicide in our city is far too many. And although we are seeing these reductions in homicides, as well as other areas of violent crime, right now we've been averaging around a 20% reduction in homicides in the city of Baton Rouge. Non-fatals are down, I think I looked at the third quarter, around 10% incidents. But let me be clear. We are not going to rest. A lot of the initiatives that you heard prior to me coming up here involves the intervention and the prevention. I want to just talk a little bit about the enforcement piece because it too is important. Because unfortunately that small percentage of individuals that are involved in violent crime need our attention. And we will continue to focus our efforts on those who are involved in shooting incidents, the shooters that are involved in gang violence. Those individuals that are involved in violence in our city will remain our highest priority. And I believe as we continue the strategies that we talked about to recognize those percentages, reductions in homicides, that we can build on that in 2023 and continue to reduce crime with these strategies that we have in place. I am optimistic about the success that lays ahead. I am proud of the work that the men and women of the Baton Rouge Police Department are demonstrating every day. I'm proud of the working relationship that I have with our state, local partners that are standing behind me. And I can tell you as a law enforcement officer and as your police chief, it is essential that we believe that this job can be done. And together it will be done. And our partners here are committed to getting the job done. And the communities we serve deserve nothing less. I want to thank the community because we would not have some of those reductions if it wasn't for you picking up the phone and calling Crime Stoppers. If it wasn't for you showing bravery and stopping one of our police officers and tell us who those criminals are who are creating a fear in our neighborhoods. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your participation, for your cooperation during the Summer of Hope when we've seen some of the largest reductions in some of the barriers that were facing community police relations being broken down, where you were sitting at the table talking to us, helping identify solutions, but more importantly, telling us who the criminals are in your community. Thank you. We hear you loud and clear. Baton Rouge, keep talking because we will never, ever stop listening. We're going to continue listening, and we're going to continue to build on these strategies, and we're going to continue to get those numbers down even more. We can do it together. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I would also like to say thank you to the Department of Justice Public Safety Partnership team for your ongoing technical assistance to align the work of our agencies. As you can see, it is indeed an all hands on deck here in East Baton Rouge Parish when it comes to reducing gun violence. And I want to personally thank all of our partners who are here today. The action plan shared with you today is a documented action plan that combines law enforcement agencies at all levels, local, state, and federal agencies, protecting and serving our community to the fullest capacity and engaging our community-based partners in building an ecosystem of support to help the average citizen feel safer in our community and to interrupt the cycle of gun violence that destroys families. Collaboration has always been a way of life for us. But what you see here today is a higher level of cooperation to address a very real and persistent issue in this community. I know we can make effective and long-lasting change in East Baton Rouge Parish. We are committed to an intelligent, data-driven approach that includes the entire community. If you would like to view this plan and the ongoing progress and updates, please visit www.brla.gov/PSP. That's brla.gov/PSP. Our agencies will continue meeting quarterly, as you heard, to discuss the outcomes. I want to say thank you to everyone who has agreed to be a part of this collaboration. And now I'm going to turn it back over to U.S. Attorney Gath, and we will take any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions?
Attorney Jeff, before we start, I just wanted to tell everyone, as the mayor just stated, brla.gov/PSP is where you can find this whole plan, including pictures from the February workshop where you see all of these people here represented and putting this together. Today, we're just going to be taking questions specific to the plan. If you all have any questions specific to a specific case, please follow up with that specific agency afterwards. Also direct your questions towards the speakers who are here today.
I have a question for Chief Paul. Chief, I was just wondering if the areas mentioned in kind of that third category, the third goal of addressing, physical conditions in neighborhoods, if any of those areas overlap with the areas that your office identified for micro-targeting a few months ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the areas, and let me say this when I think the community, because when we direct resources in very specific areas, we use the data. The data identified micro areas within our community where we were seeing consistent violent activity, specifically gun violence. So we redirected resources there. A part of our operation that we put together with our specialized divisions, we have redirected resources. But here's what's important. When we are in those areas, the people in those communities want us back. The individuals who live in these disinvested communities welcome us. And what we're seeing is our heavy presence in these neighborhoods, these micro areas in our city, has had a positive impact on reducing gun violence in those areas. It's a very strategic approach. And let me be clear. We are not there for the good law-abiding citizens that live in those areas. We are there for that small group of individuals who are involved in violent crime. And we are making arrests. We've seized so far this year more than 1,700 guns we have taken into evidence this year alone. We've arrested more than 3,776 individuals for violent crime, felony offenses in the city of Baton Rouge. 441 juvenile arrests, 66 homicide arrests, 13 of those juveniles, 53. We are doing that with the help from the community. So as you see us continue to direct resources in those areas, the areas that you're speaking of, it is important that the community understand that when they see this presence, that we are there for you. And that we are there with a very strategic approach in how we address that community. I think our training, which we have demonstrated, as part of the training that actually came from our PSP to make us one of the leading agencies in law enforcement with our procedural justice training and all of the wins that we have from participating in this initiative. So I think it's welcomed in those areas. The people want us there, and I can tell you we're going to be there. And if you are one of those individuals who are involved in violent crime, you will continue to get our attention.
So basically, from what we're hearing, is that there has been progress based on the work you guys have done in the past, and is this something that y'all are going to continue or are you going to explore other strategies as well?
Right. This is still a work in progress. So, yes, we are continuing to get other strategies. I think we are still learning from what the rest of the nation is doing as well. But as they stated earlier, it was kind of a, we all had limited jurisdictions, and so we all were working our own individual plans, and this is the combination of everyone working on one plan together.
Ariel?
The phone calls that you said you were mentioning about the tips from the folks, there been an increase in calls? And do you have like a percentage on how much might help or?
Yeah, so let me be clear. One of the things we've seen, we really saw this. The mayor's office took the lead in our Summer of Hope initiative. So many initiatives that were going on around the city where we were encouraging the community to get involved. I don't have Crime Stoppers our partners here. A lot of our community partners not here. This is mostly our law enforcement, but they did want to be here. Let me be clear about that. What we're seeing is not just Crime Stoppers, but people picking up the phone, calling our chief, calling our detectives. People are getting involved. And there's different levels to cooperation. We have people who will pick up the phone and tell us who's committing crime in their actors. They may not necessarily, who are committing crime in the community. They may not be necessarily willing to be a witness like Hill or Moore may need, but they're still helping us identify who those individuals are. When you call Crime Stoppers, you're anonymous. Nobody knows who you are. Yes, we are seeing more calls coming in. Yes, we're seeing more cooperation. Yes, the people in Baton Rouge are starting not to believe the lie called stop snitching. They are picking up the phone. They are calling us, and we're encouraging them to keep calling us. They're getting involved, and it's going to be their cooperation and their bravery that's going to help us put those individuals who are committing violence in our city. So keep calling us. We're going to keep coming.
You say that the plan is still a work in progress. In terms of where you're seeing hurdles, things you're struggling with getting this up and running, what are they?
I guess it's still just the unknown. I mean, we have to be candid. And so, as I mentioned earlier, crime is evolving. There's always different ways for crime to take place. It may be a changing of a cell phone. It may be changing of the way they communicate. And we have to stay on top of that. And in doing that, as their rules change, our rules are going to have to change. So while we want to try and come up with a legitimate reason to stay focused on the areas that we want to stay focused on, there may be called for adjustment. And if there are, again, we're meeting quarterly to see what those adjustments are that need to be made, and they will obviously be made to the plan.
Question for this attorney Moore. We've spoken about, auto sears, some of the past trends in the gun your office is recovering. Are there any recent or newer trends that you all have seen that are particularly noteworthy?
Recently, haven't seen quite as many auto sears, fully automated weapons, but they're still coming across. I think we currently have around 80 or so cases. Many have been resolved already. One troubling part is that several of those are juveniles that are carrying those weapons, and those weapons are very destructive. They really weaponize the weapon and just it makes it completely different. We do not have, in my opinion, we do not have adequate state legislation to address auto sears, automatic weapons. I think our machine gun statute, which it's called, is out of date. I do have a proposed bill that I'd like to see if we'll get some traction in the legislature, and that's one that we're working on now, and hopefully we'll have it reviewed by January by other DAs across the state to see if we can have some better legislation.
To wrap it up, do we have a burning question still from anybody? Last question from anybody here?
All right. And with that, we'd like to thank you all for coming. We appreciate everything that you do. Thank you.